The United States and Iran have a deal. The problem is no one knows what's in the deal. And what's in the deal is the whole ball game. And we don't know what's in the deal because neither side has released the actual text. Right now, both sides are trying to talk tough and look strong in front of their people. Iran is saying the United States was forced to cave, and the United States is saying Iran was forced to cave. So who is telling the truth? Obviously, we won't know until we see the text of this deal. So the question is, when's that going to happen?
Mr. President, when will the text of the MOU be released?
I think pretty soon. I would say, I want it to be released because it's a very powerful document. It's not like the Obama document, which was just a terrible document. This is a very powerful document, and I want it to be released. So probably pretty soon. I would say sometime after Friday.
So I guess we're going to have to wait for the facts on this deal. But right now, what we can do is talk about what we know and what we don't know, which is equally as important. What we know is there is a deal. President Trump and Iran have confirmed at least that much. And I know it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but it is a big deal, especially since Trump has been saying, dozens and dozens of times that a deal with Iran is here, only to have Iran say, no, it's not. So the fact that both sides are confirming a deal is here is a step in the right direction. Now, you need to understand this deal is not a full peace deal, nor is it a full nuclear deal. It is just a memorandum of understanding. The MOU would stop the hostilities between the United States and Iran, would reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and would set up the next round of talks to decide what to do with Iran's nuclear material and nuclear ambitions. Those talks, according to the vice president, are going to be technical talks that will last for the next 60 days. So this is only the very beginning. And President Trump said if things fall apart, he has no problem going back to war.
And hopefully it's going to be a good relationship and we're going to get along. And if we don't, we go back to where we started, but I don't think that's going to be necessary.
So now let's talk about the three big questions that are left unanswered based on this deal. Number one, and the biggest issue, is Iran's nuclear program. The whole reason why President Trump started this war. We do not actually know what Iran agreed to. But here's what Trump said about it.
And the main thing is that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. They fully agreed to that with strong policing powers, and they won't have a nuclear weapon, which is what it was all about.
But Iran says this MOU does not commit them to anything related to their nuclear program. Now, for argument's sake, let's give President Trump the benefit of the doubt and assume that everything he just said is true, and Iran fully agreed to never have a nuclear weapon. The fact is, as I told you in this deep dive, Iran already agreed to exactly that same thing in President Obama's Iran nuclear deal. The one that President Trump has said for decades is trash. Yeah, the JCPOA, Obama's deal, specifically said that under no circumstances will Iran ever seek, develop, or acquire any nuclear weapons. To ensure that happened, in the JCPOA, Iran agreed to allow continuous monitoring of its operations by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Iran also agreed to give up nearly all of its enriched uranium and almost all of its centrifuges, which are the machines used to enrich uranium. And according to one of the last reports from the International Atomic Energy Agency, just a few months before President Trump tore up the JCPOA, Iran was fully compliant. They were not enriching uranium outside the range agreed to for peaceful purposes. The report said that no enriched uranium has been accumulated through enrichment R&D activities, and it said that Iran had submitted to all IAEA inspections. So right now, we don't know how Trump's deal is any different or if it's any better. The other big question with this new Trump deal is what exactly is happening with the Strait of Hormuz? President Trump says this deal will lift the U.S. blockade, and he said this about the strait.
And the strait is already partially opened. As you know, they're doing a little hunting for a couple of mines that they've already found. But it's essentially ships are starting to go out now. On Friday, it'll be completely opened. And it's toll-free. We had a little argument on that. It's toll-free.
Now, Iran says, sure, the strait will reopen, but it will reopen under the control of Iran, which was, of course, not the case before this war began. Now, it's possible Iran will not include a toll, but instead, Iran will charge a fee for ships transiting through the strait, we will have to wait and see exactly what happens in the coming days. And the last question about this deal is the money. Will the United States be giving Iran any money or relieving any of the crippling sanctions just because Iran signed this MOU?
Mr. President, does the deal involve any sanctions relief for Iran? When would that go into effect?
No, it doesn't. Well, they have to. It's really a behavioral thing. If they do what they're supposed to do, that starts taking effect.
Shocking, that's not what Iran says. Iran says this MOU will unlock at least $12 billion of Iranian assets that the U.S. has frozen, and perhaps up to another $100 billion of Iranian assets that are blocked by other countries. Now, if you were listening carefully to what Trump said, you didn't hear him say, no, Iran is not going to get any money, period. What he said was they would get money depending on whether they comply with this deal. But President Trump criticized President Obama for basically doing the exact same thing when the JCPOA was signed, lifting sanctions on Iran when they complied with his deal.